it. Thank everybody for coming today. We're going to go ahead and kick off the press conference. All right. Good morning, afternoon. My name is Charlene Oliver. I'm the Democratic nominee for State Senate, District 19. I'm pissed. I really am. So about 10 months ago, I stood right here on these steps and organized a protest against the gerrymandered maps. We organized a Stop the Maps protest. Organizers came together because we knew then what we knew would happen today is that by design, our supermajority Republicans, and all of them are complicit, right on down to our Secretary of State, Trey Hargett, who don't know how to do their jobs, who don't know how to govern, and they love to claim voter fraud. They are the real frauds because they are not doing right by the people of Tennessee, by the people of Nashville, by the voters of Nashville. We worked so hard to restore faith in our democracy, to restore trust, especially in a time where democracy is so fragile. And you mean to tell me that you have one job to do, one job, and you only got to do it 3 times this year, and you couldn't get it right? And I call bullshit on Jeff Roberts talking about you can't do anything. You're just going to wash your hands. Get in there and figure it out. You know what the voter file looks like. You know who has voted. Contact every voter that has cast a ballot incorrectly and let them correct it. This is on you all. And it shouldn't be this hard to vote in Tennessee. We shouldn't have to urge people to check your voter status. Find out what district you're in. Take your voter ID card. Myself was voter suppressed on the first day of early vote. The lady in Station 5 at the downtown precinct told me I was not a registered voter in the system. I said, ma'am, I'm a candidate. You better check again. Had I not known the rules of this state, I would have walked away. How many people are walking away because our state does not put the right information out? They can't even get their own gerrymandered maps right. They can't even fix their own system of voter suppression. This is wrong. And they need to fix it. They need to have an investigation. Trey Hargett does not need to be our Secretary of State anymore. If I'm elected, I would not be voting for him to be our Secretary of State next year. It needs to be a full investigation. We need to have lawyers involved, and they need to contact every voter. I am outraged. We all should be outraged. There is too much on the line in Tennessee for little stuff like this to be happening. Little stuff. And it's not a coincidence because not only myself has been affected by this, Michaela has been affected by this. I had a supporter in my district, Karen Broyles, who had to elevate this issue. She's the reason why we are here today because she reported it. That's right. In my state Senate district. So this impacts all of us. And I'm sick of this. I'm sick of having incompetent leaders lead this state. You can't get elections right, then you're not going to get education right. You're not going to get criminal justice reform right. You're not going to get anything else right that we need for the people of Tennessee. So move aside and let some real leaders lead this state. That's why I'm running. That's why Odessa is running. That's why Jason Martin is running. Give us a chance. We'll show you how it's done right. Yes, ma'am. So this concludes the press conference.
Hi, everyone. I am Randal Cooper. I am the congressional nominee in the Tennessee 6th District. Anecdotal evidence suggests that several voters in this election have been given ballots for districts in which they do not reside. This seems to be the result of the last-minute rush to gerrymander Nashville into 3 districts in order to gain electoral advantage, coupled with a systematic failure to communicate and execute the new districts, and a failure to properly train election workers and the public on the new maps. This is unacceptable. For all the claims by partisan organizations, Tennessee has one of the least reliable voting systems in the country, as evidenced by this and by the fact that it is only one of a handful of states that doesn't mandate a paper trail for ballots to be recounted. I am calling for an independent, transparent investigation to provide us with the answers to these three critical questions. Number one, how precisely did this happen? Number two, precisely how many votes are potentially in the wrong districts? From congressional to state legislature to state senate. And number three, what steps are being taken to fix both the district maps and the voting systems? If we make a mistake, we need to fix it. All voters need to be sure that their elections are fundamentally sound, that their votes, every vote, will be counted, and their voice will be heard. Fair elections are the bedrock of our democracy, and Tennessee running them in this slipshod manner without explanation or a recovery plan is completely unacceptable. Thank you.
Good morning, Jason Martin. We're here today to address a pattern of voter suppression in Tennessee, a pattern of disenfranchising voters, and particularly voters in marginalized communities. This is just the latest in a pattern of attacking Democratic candidates who dare challenge the extremist Republican establishment here in Tennessee. Attacks on voters and voting access in this state, it's nothing new. We all know that here in Davidson County, one of the most populous counties in the state, early voting was limited to a single site for hundreds of thousands of voters for the first week of early voting. And of course, we have the example of gerrymandering in our state. Nashville had been represented by a single U.S. congressional seat for as long as Tennessee had been a state, until this year, when the power-hungry General Assembly divided Nashville into 3 new districts with the intent of weakening the will of the voters and diluting the voices of our minority communities. And now we see exactly the product of these efforts. We see the voice of Tennesseans being diluted further. We've heard about election administration irregularities in the new CD7 and the possibility that votes were miscast, and the problem may not be fixed yet. As was reported, the reaction to this problem was mistakes happen. Mistakes happen. So here's what this looks like for a voter. You live in a district where you should be able to go vote for Odessa if you want to. You walk into the polling place to cast your ballot, and the name of candidates for another race show up on your screen. And the result is that your vote is not counted properly. This is blatant disenfranchisement. This is a further attack on our election process. And this problem is not a one-off issue in this race or for a single precinct, but it's a systemic problem that goes all the way to that radical General Assembly and all the way to the governor's office. There's a lack of transparency in government. There's a lack of respect for us as voters. There's a lack of support for our democratic ideals, and it must stop here and now. Tennesseans deserve more from their elected officials. The initial response to this debacle did not inspire confidence for me. Davidson County Election Administrator Jeff Roberts said, mistakes happen. And he went on to say that he was unsure if the same problem was happening in other precincts, according to media reports from last evening. Make no mistake, this cavalier attitude towards democracy goes all the way to the top, and we must act now to make sure that it doesn't happen again. And the way we do this, you all, is by keep showing up at the polls. Keep voting. Don't be happy with low voter turnout. When they decide to weaken your voice, it's up to us to overwhelm the polls with voters and make sure that our voices are heard. From our end, from the campaign side, we're going to do everything we can to hold Governor Lee accountable this election with your help. We're going to hold accountable the radical supermajority in the General Assembly and their allies with your help. We ask that you please don't lose faith in us. Don't lose faith in the process. Let's go to the polls. Let's exercise our sacred right to vote. If you go to the polls and you experience a voting irregularity, or if you feel like you're experiencing a problem, our campaign has set up a voter protection hotline. That number is 1-866-6-VOTE-TN. 866-6-VOTE-TN. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Glad I didn't have to follow Charlene. No, but everybody's done a great job. And this is really a serious matter that we need to talk about here. Tennessee has been touted, as we said, that we had the highest election security when it comes to the voting process. But here we see a blatant example of how systems can fail, and an attitude of, oh well, we'll see what we can do, and that's unacceptable. You know, this is an example of how they've rigged the process with gerrymandering. Now, they've gerrymandered it so much that people don't even know what district they're in. They don't know who to vote for, and any of those things. But this is calculated chaos, and with the intent to take away your voice, and your freedom. I'm gonna say it again. This is calculated chaos, with the intent to take away your voice and your freedom. This is an example of how you get caught up in your own lies. You get caught up in your own lies. You don't know what's the truth. They gerrymandered the districts, and now we don't know what to do. And then there's no solution. And we've experienced the Republicans coming up with solutions for problems that we don't have. Now, how about we find a solution to a real problem that we have? And so I encourage everyone to go out there and vote. That's the only way that we can combat this, is to go out there and vote. And let's find out if there are any other irregularities throughout the state. We have to get out there and vote. If voting wasn't so important, say, why do you think we are having these issues at this particular moment in time? We cannot afford to tune out this election or any election. I know we hear it over and over. This is the most important election of our lifetime. It is absolutely true every time you hear it. This is an example of why who is in charge matters. Leadership matters. We have a bunch of people who don't know how to govern, who are more in tune with their own political aspirations and power grabs rather than doing their job for the people. Here's an opportunity to put your money where your mouth is. If you're for the people, go ahead, show us, fix it, and make it right. But you've shown with your behavior and your past actions that you don't care about people. You don't care about Tennessee. You care more about a AAA bond rating than making sure people have food on their table. So we have to get together and make sure everyone goes out and vote. If you take away nothing from today, go vote. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Randal Cooper, the chairman of the Tennessee Democratic Party. Unfortunately, we're here today as a result of a rushed, Republican-driven gerrymandering that was sought to be racially and politically driven. Now we're seeing the results of that play out not just in an election, but play out in minority voters, the impact that minority voters will have in this election. I had an opportunity to speak with the Secretary of State this morning and the Administrator of Elections, Mark Goins, about the issues that has transpired. And I wanted some answers. I wanted some clear, solid answers about how did this happen? What's been done to fix it? How many voters have been impacted by this? And then how do we move forward in a way that our candidates can feel confident, voters can feel confident, and elections can be fair? What we do know is that Republicans have created this cloud of uncertainty over elections across the country. Here in this state, when Republican leadership has failed at almost every turn, now we have almost at the bottom of the barrel a Republican-controlled election commission that's failing just as much as the governor's office is failing. The reality is, voter apathy is already through the roof. What we need is for voters to feel more confident in going out and voting, feeling like their votes count, feeling like they can vote for the people who they choose to vote for, that those representatives that they decided to go vote for are the folks who are going to be showing up on the ballot. And as I've told the Secretary of State's office this morning, thanks for the call, but it'll be even better when these problems don't exist. So for all of you that are here today, for our candidates, we're going to make sure that we're refining everything that we can on our end, retuning our relationships with voters, and making sure that they understand that the Democratic Party is going to be a force for them to be able to rely on when these type of situations happen. We have been talking to our legal team. We've been talking to the Democratic Party's voter protection team, and we're going to continue talking to the Secretary of State's office until every vote has been counted and the polls have closed, and we feel confident that the election has been carried out in a manner that's accurate and fair. And let me say this. I have zero confidence in Jeff Roberts. I'm calling on the Election Commission to remove him from his position. The approach that he has taken, that, oops, this is a mistake, that doesn't happen. This is just not a human error. You should have not just checked to make sure that these maps were accurate. You shouldn't have just double checked to make sure that these maps were accurate. You should have tripled down to make sure that these maps were accurate.
Yes, sir.
Jeff Roberts, if you can't lead the Election Commission, then get the hell out of the way and let somebody do the job who knows what they're doing. So I'm calling on voters to go out and vote, because we need to make sure that every vote is counted, and we need to make sure that everybody is voting. Thank you all for being here, and we'll be around for questions later.
Hey everybody, I'm supposed to be out canvassing. I'm supposed to be out encouraging students to get out and vote right now, but you know, here we are. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Odessa Kelly. I am running in Tennessee's 7th District for U.S. Congress. We got a problem. And we're trying to get to the bottom of it. We're going to ensure that every vote gets counted. You know, I want to be extremely clear about this. This is the results of a racist, bigoted, money-hungry Republican legislature who is doing everything to hoard power to keep the system rigged against everyday working class people, and to all the people who want to see change, who want to see a new version of Tennessee, who want to see a new model of the South, who want to move this country forward. It's easy for everyone to be demoralized about what's going on today. Take a deep breath. Take a deep breath. This is our city. This is our state, our district, our country. You got the right one here today. We gonna organize as we've been doing. We climb uphill real well. No one knows better how to fight and get over hurdles than all of us who were not born on Easy Street. This is what we do. So let's take this moment and let's just be a model of how we build the new South. If we got to jump every hurdle, we gonna jump all those hurdles. I jump high and I jump far. I'm an athlete. And that's exactly what we're gonna do. To every person that feels frustrated and disfranchised, don't disengage. Lean into the process. Lean deep into the process. If you can hear my voice, if you can see my face, this is your election. This is your district. This is your future. Look at your children in the face. You are fighting for them. And I'll be damned if I'm gonna let any racist, bigoted election commissioner, the state Republicans, keep me from doing that. I'm speaking to you. Every other person up here has told you what the issue is. We're doing everything that we possibly can to fix it. Dr. Martin gave you a hotline for you to call. We got the wheels and the cogs turning, but you got to turn out and you got to vote. We need you here to vote. Don't let these racist, bigoted few be the definition of Tennessee. That's not us. Tennessee is better than that. We're going to join Georgia becoming the new model of the South that we want to build. This is our state. We get to have the chance to build it and shape it in a way that truly reflects who Tennesseans are, not them. They're doing all this to hoard power because they're afraid of change. Tennessee looks like you and Tennessee looks like me. It's caring about its neighbor. It's intentional about moving and doing our part to move this country forward. And that's exactly who we are. So I got to say it again. Do not be discouraged by this. If you got to take off of work and go vote, take off of work and go vote. I told everybody the other day, and I said it again, I can't wait to buy a t-shirt that says, I went for broke to save my country and my democracy. Because that's exactly what we're here, and that's what we're doing in this moment. Every person standing beside me, they took off for something important, something else that they were supposed to be doing right now, because this is what it takes to save our democracy. How glorious will it feel 200 years from now when they read about our era in history? The era of people who saved the United States, who saved democracy out of the hands of fascism. That's us. That's our call to duty. Every person out there, get up, go vote, take someone with you. Don't worry about making the next person uncomfortable. Are your children's future worth it? Is your country worth it? Is you getting paid the dignity that you owe worth it? Is us doing our part to save this earth that is absolutely dying worth it? The answer is yes. This ain't no game.
Yes,
this is your life. This is your life we are talking about right now. You got a small group of people here who is willing to destroy this country, this state, and this earth for their own personal greed. They don't care about you. And if we got to drag all those who vote against their interests for their better good, then so be it. I stand right here and tell you right now, I'm the definition of Tennessee. I'm the definition of the New South. We stand in solidarity. Everybody wants to move this country forward. We're the evolution of the next South. I will not be dragged and held back by a bunch of bigots. We don't stand about this Southern nice where we don't speak our truth to the things that are happening to us. What you see is how big and how magnanimous we. Excuse me. Whew, let me calm down. Chill. Let's breathe for a second. You see how big of people that we are. We hopping over mountains to make sure that we can move this state forward. Tennessee is not a red state. Tennessee is an oppressed state. Tennessee is not a red state. Tennessee is a non-voting state. Ever since slavery, ever since Jim Crow, all these things they do because they've been walking on Easy Street since 1619. That day is over. Immigrants are here to stay. Black people are here to stay. Women, as a woman, we will not abide by any rule that steps on our human rights and our dignity to have autonomy over our body. And not hide your racism behind Christianity. I got the same Bible they got, and I interpret it way different. Way different. Again, last thing I'm gonna say to everyone, don't sit on the sidelines. Lean in. Get involved. Be frustrated. Be determined. Be driven. And be part of history that we're gonna make next Tuesday, November 8th, when all of us come out victorious, because I trust in you and I believe in you, Tennessee. I believe in you, District 7. I believe in you, Nashville, Tennessee, to show up and show everybody in this country who we really are as Tennesseans. To every individual that's out here, thank you for taking your time to be here. To everybody that's out there that's frustrated, we got your back. So many people at work right now, and that's the problem. They at work and they trust us to be in positions to have their back and do what they ask us to do when they're not paying attention. Not lean in and be like, what the hell is going on? And that's why you got to elect the leadership that's going to do that for you. My name is Odessa Kelly. I'm running for U.S. Congress. I plan to be celebrating next Tuesday because I trust you to go out and vote and do what we need to do to save our democracy. Thank you.
Thank you.
anybody want to ask questions, we here.
Yeah, what about the argument that this is not the Republican legislature's fault or the Republican-controlled legislature's fault, that this could have happened, that no matter how the districts were redrawn and precincts might have been split, say, in Summer County or anywhere?
Yeah, I'll let caucus chair Vincent Dixie answer this question.
And before you ask a question, can you state which outlet you're with?
Sam Stocker, Tennessee Lookout.
All right. To answer your question, this is a huge product of gerrymandering. And we talked about this earlier. If you left Nashville whole, you know where the boundaries are. Or if you cut it in a particular landmark, whether it's a highway, a river, or a district line, you know where it is. But when you literally cut up a neighborhood and you can literally stand in one corner and be in 3 different districts depending on where your feet are, that can happen anywhere across the state. And this is because of the Republican-controlled maps that they drew. And this is, I can't put it any plainer, this is their fault. It hadn't happened in my lifetime since I've been here, but since we've been in this, and as Odessa said, the power-hungry mode that they're in, and to keep it, because they know that noose is tightening around their neck. The power is coming to an end. People are waking up and are tired of this. And just to reiterate, yes, this could happen anywhere because of the way that they drew the gerrymandered maps. Gerrymandering should be illegal, and I have no idea why it's not.
And Sam, I actually had an opportunity to ask the Secretary of State that question this morning. I specifically asked him and Mark Goins, had they done their due diligence to make sure that we weren't seeing a pattern of this in other counties across the state. And he said with 100% confidence that they hadn't. And I followed up with, well, had you sent an email or anything to other counties? They hadn't. So there's not a true answer to not, it's not happening in other counties. But he did state that that's one of the things that they will do as part of our request for them, is to find out if this is happening anywhere else in any other county as a result of redistricting.
Do we have any other questions?
Yeah, Justin with the Tennessee Holler. Do we know if this happened during the primary, and if Trey Hargett and Secretary of State's office knew about it and did anything about it or did nothing about it?
Yeah, that's also.
We could assume that this was an issue during the primary as well. What I was told by the Secretary of State's office and by Mark Goins is that Nashville, the Nashville Davidson County Election Commission, this was supposedly a flaw on their end, that the GIS mapping didn't line up with what the redistricting maps look like. Not only are we seeing the results here now, but I would assume that these same maps and these same districts and that same voter information was on file in August. So we can assume that this was probably an issue then as well.
Just to answer your question, the answer is yes, it had to happen. But if it wasn't for a brave constituent, then actually she came up and brought this to light, no one would have ever known. So even if they did know what was happening, they covered it up until someone brought it to their attention. And even when it was brought to their attention, they brushed her off until she started to call the right people and start to mobilize and get people educated about what was going on. So the answer is yes. There's no doubt that they didn't know what was going on. There's no way that it can't know what's going on.
Do you guys plan to take any course of action moving forward, any legal action, or is there anything that you can do?
We're not answering any questions about legal procedures right now.
Can you tell us more about the hotline, how that works?
Dr. Martin, yeah, I think you had the hotline.
Yeah, so
Emily Couples.
Yeah, I'm with the
Come on, Emily,
Mark,
so they can hear you.
Hey, yeah. One, I want to answer your question about legal. We do have a legal team on the ground investigating the matter. We're not discussing it further. Sorry. And also the hotline. We do have a hotline set up. As Dr. Martin mentioned, it's 8666-VOTE-TN. And we have full-time staff monitoring that hotline at all times. So if you have problems, if you have problems at the polls or issues voting, call that hotline. we'll get you connected with our team and figure out what's going on.
Jonathan Mattice with the AP. What else did Secretaries of State Trey Hargett tell you during that meeting that you can share?
Well, what I am willing to share is that what I was told was that this impacted 230 voters at their count from the Secretary of State's office. Those numbers on the line with what Jeff Roberts reported in an article this morning, which I believe was about 196 voters. I was told that this problem had been rectified, that this was no longer an issue. I was told that it impacted every one of the 3 congressional districts that was split, 5, 6, and 7. I was also told that this issue was one that they stayed up throughout the night working to try to resolve. It's going to be left up to the voters at the polls reporting whether or not they've done their jobs. It's going to be left up to ordinary people, constituents, brave enough, as Chairman Dixie has said, and willing to say, I have the wrong ballot. And it's going to be incumbent upon this election commission to make sure that when voters have voting issues, they don't force them to take a hard ballot, but they put provisional ballots on the table for them. So those are some of the things that I've been told by the Secretary of State's office. And they will follow up with other counties to see if this issue is something that's more widespread than what we currently know.
Was there a combination of all districts voting in the wrong district? Like, were there people in 5 voting in 6, and 6 voting in 5, and 7 voting in 6, and 7? You know, the whole gamut.
What I was told was that it impacted all 3 districts, 5, 6, and 7. So I would assume that they have some data snapshot to show that there were voters impacted in each of those districts.
Did he say whether the election commission could allow people to go back and re-vote?
No, he didn't. We didn't have that conversation. He didn't say that. I'm 100% certain of it.
Did he kind of bring Tennessee? Did he say whether it was the software, a poll worker, or what the issue was with identifying the right district?
The issue, from what they told me, is that it was squarely from the election commission and Metro's GIS data or department or team, and that data being put in wrongly. And that's a result of he didn't use the word gerrymandering, but he talked about how districts were cut and how you could cut an apartment complex or cut a street in half and how that could result in this sort of an issue.
Thank you, Hendra. Is there anyone else? Any more questions by anyone? All right, guys, I want to say 2 special shout outs, sending love to Heidi Campbell and her family. She is going through a personal issue right now. If not, she would be standing right here, I'm pretty sure, beside us with this situation. But family comes over everything. So just want to send some love her way. She's doing everything that she possibly can to fight for our democracy in District 5. So just because you don't see her face here, understand she is here with us in spirit. So thank you again. Let's get out of this rain.
Hey everybody, so I see some of your comments and I just want to address them because a lot of them are kind of the same ones. So some of you are saying, oh, suddenly it's okay to question election integrity, acting as though this is somehow hypocritical. But here's the difference. This actually happened. So your point about like, oh, now it's okay to question election integrity. No, this happened. Secretary of State has admitted it. And so they are calling it out because this actually happened. So there's a little bit of a difference between one is a fantasy and one is a reality. And then I see Julie Kwan talking about inflation up under Dems. Okay, so I can go specifically one by one, but you should just know that inflation is a global issue. Republicans have no answers for it. And, they vote against every solution that there actually is. Tennessee is at the bottom in infant and maternal mortality, poverty, crime, all kinds of things. Red states suffer tremendously under, these Republican regimes that are against services against government, cut all kinds of programs, and then they use things like transphobia and fear of immigrants to fearmonger and keep your vote. So if you have any questions about any of that, please let me know. I will send you any kinds of links that you'd like, or just keep following the holler and maybe you'll learn something. In the meantime, this is ridiculous. Shame on Trey Hargett, and we'll see you next time.